see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Welcome, everybody. Woo! Yeah. We're so lucky with how the weather turned out. I have been really looking forward to getting the opportunity to speak to you. However, I admit I was also a little nervous about what I was going to talk about. Naturally, for some help, I turned to my parents to see if they had any thoughts. And sensing my growing tension and in an attempt to lighten the situation, they jokingly suggested I get up in front of you guys and talk about how much of a spaz I am. Thanks, Mom and Dad. But it is true, and those of you who know me well know that I have endless stories of being clumsy or spastic. Like the time in the 7th grade when walking down Linden Street, I collided face first with a parking meter because I wasn't looking where I was going, chipping my front tooth out. Yes, that really happened, and no, not one of my finest moments. My friends did end up finding my tooth in the street, but other than teaching me that parking meters can in fact be hurtful and gaining a fake front tooth, that incident is nothing but a funny story to tell. So take or leave my advice, but I really hope you take it. I'm going to read you a short story that I have always loved. Many of you have probably heard some version of it along the way, but it goes like this. A young girl was walking along the beach where thousands of starfish had washed up after a terrible storm. When the little girl approached each starfish, she would throw it back into the ocean while everyone on the beach watched her with amusement. She had been doing this for some time when a man approached her and asked, "Little girl, why are you doing this? Look at the beach. You can't possibly save all the starfish. You can't begin to make a difference." The girl seemed crushed, but after a moment she looked down at the starfish below her and threw it as far into the ocean as she could. She then looked back up to the man and replied, "Well, I made a difference to that one." I bet you're expecting me to stand up here and tell you to make a change, to be the girl on the beach throwing the starfish. But instead, I want to switch it around and ask, who has made the difference to you? Who made you the starfish? For me, that has been a few teachers who have taken the time to stay after with me to really make sure I understood a topic, a few coaches who have instilled their confidence in me, and friends who are always there to talk to, who have stuck up for me and always pushed me a little harder to be better. Everyone has that one person or several people who have changed or impacted them. The beauty of it is that everyone has different people in their life that are important. And I'd like everyone to take a minute or two to think about one person or several people who have changed you. Now that you have these people or one person in mind, I'd like to make a special request, a challenge, if you will. I'd like to challenge everyone here to find that person before the end of the day. Maybe they're sitting right next to you in the stands or on the field, or maybe they're not even here today. Regardless of who it is, find them and say thank you. Give them a hug, handshake, or a phone call, or if that's not your thing, shoot them a text. It doesn't matter. It's really only the thought that counts. But take the time to acknowledge what they have done for you, how they have changed or impacted you. It could be the teacher who always stayed after with you, your best friend who has always been there for you, or a friend who you always study with. I think you get it. The point is, for every person sitting here, there is another person out there who has made a difference to them. While it's crazy to think about, this is the last time we as a class will ever be together as one group. There will be some people who will stay your best friends, and some you will never talk to again. Catch these people before we all leave, because the reality is, tomorrow you may never see them again. Many of you are probably brushing aside what I am suggesting, but we spend so much time trying to go out and get ahead. What if we set aside a few minutes of our time to say 2 words that are pretty effortless in nature? For most people, it is probably almost automatic. Life can be extremely unpredictable. We're all going to have setbacks and get knocked down. Hopefully not by a parking meter. Many of you have probably had someone tell you to appreciate the now or to be present, as you never know what is coming next. I recognize that there is someone out there who has made every person in the audience feel special, loved, or cared for. Someone who has made you work harder, smarter, or more confidently. Each of us has been the starfish, but each of us can also be the girl, or the boy, or that person who makes a difference. Today, when someone approaches you and says thank you, or you approach someone and say thank you, take that feeling of gratitude with you. Take it off this field, out of this school, out of this town, into the world, and pay it forward. We are so lucky to be where we are today, to live in a town like Wellesley and to attend an amazing school like ours. To be sitting out there or standing up here, that is a privilege so many people in the world would be incredibly grateful to have. Giving this speech to such an accomplished group of young people is a privilege, an honor. I could have turned it down. I could have continued procrastinating like I did for the first 2.5 weeks of May, but this is a privilege so many people don't get, and for that, I want to say thank you. Thank you for allowing me this privilege. Thank you to my classmates for electing me. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you to the custodians, the administrators, the secretaries. Thank you to all of our teachers. Thank you to Dr. Lucier and Dr. Chisholm. Thank you to our parents, family, and friends who are here with us today, and also those who could not make it. Thank you to those who have helped me write this. You know who you are. And thank you to those who have really changed me and made me into the person I am today. I hope I have made sure that you know who you are. Thank you for seeing the starfish in me. If you didn't listen at all to my speech, it's okay. I get it. But I'm telling you to listen now, because my speech can be condensed down to a few words, really. Don't walk into a parking meter. But in all seriousness, if you take away one thing from my speech, it should be the importance of 2 simple but powerful words. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Adamo Dalalis, or Adam Dalalis, as most of you know me, and I'm the vice president of the class, and I'm here to present the class gift today. While thinking about what the class gift should be, the other class officers and I thought of many different gifts that we could give. In the past, people have given new couches. Maybe they haven't gotten them yet, but they'll be here soon. But we thought we should get something new, something that we haven't seen before. So my senior project was being a class officer. I planned all the events with Ann Griffin, and we cleaned out Miss Novogroski's closet, and there were very old speakers in there. They did not look like they could be used. And we had some troubles with speakers before. At our teen center dance in December, we did not have a speaker to play music until 30 minutes before, when my dad pulled through and gave it to us. But it went well. So the class gift this year is going to be a set of speakers that all the classes can use for their dances, and you can use them in the cafeteria for the morning announcements, and they can use it outside for any event that they may need them. We'd like to thank Dr. Chisholm, Ms. Novogroski, Mr. Bender, Mr. Kelton, and all the other teachers for supporting us these past 4 years, and thank you. That's it.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today in celebration of the miraculous union between two godly things, 400 teenagers and 400 signed sheets of paper. Or maybe that's 800 godly things. What can I say? It's been a romantic day. Besides teenagers and papers, we are witnessing other happy tableaux. We see the student blowing a farewell kiss at the joyful days of not worrying about taxes or death. We see the student wave a tearful goodbye at all those mentors who've allowed them to blossom into their beautiful selves. We see the student realize that they're a little fish in a pond much bigger than Wellesley, a cog in the capitalist machine, and various other cliches and vagaries. I'd like to thank all of the teachers who had enough faith in me to think that I'd spout some wisdom today. I make no promises. I'm 17 and lost, and vagaries isn't even a word. Nevertheless, I persist. I'm an editor on the Bradford, a fact that everybody knows because it's actually all I talk about. The Bradford, in case you didn't know, is the high school's newspaper, which you should all get a subscription to if you haven't already. Back in March, we were preparing for our April Fool's satire issue, The Badford, which is like a Wellesley High School edition of The Onion. Some headlines from this year's edition include, Art Trip Takes Detour to Hell, or Kitchen Department Establishes Bring Your Own Microwave Initiative. One of those funny ideas we were brainstorming ended up being an article where a man who fell into a coma in 2012 wakes up in 2018 and thinks, what the actual heck is going on? Because it's true. 2018 has blessed us with headlines I would never have thought I'd read back in 2012. You have things like, Alabama lawmaker against arming teachers because it's mostly ladies that's teaching. Or, Rick Santorum suggests kids stop marching, start taking CPR classes. Or, Tide laundry pods become delicacy for teenagers, sprouting left and right on your Facebook feed, and part of me believes that the world actually did end in 2012, like all those minds predicted. But among these headlines, you get some more serious ones too. Harvey Weinstein paid off sexual harassment accusers for decades. Or video shows Sacramento police shooting unarmed black man in grandparents' backyard. Or at least 17 dead in Florida school shooting, law enforcement says. If Wellesley High School were a mushroom, which I'm not suggesting it is, but let's pose a hypothetical. If the high school were a mushroom, we'd be 400 little spores shooting off at the worst possible odds for survival in this unforgiving wilderness. We've seen that the world out there is a cruel place, that bad things happen to good people for no reason, and that conversely, no matter how good you try to be, bad things can still happen to you. And more often, it feels like school hasn't prepared us for the real world, that we spores are too delicate, too fragile, too easily crushed. Why do we need to know how to take the second derivative of cosine when there are women getting raped and then blamed for wearing shorts? Why does it matter that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell when unarmed black Americans are killed nearly weekly for absolutely no reason at all? And who cares if Macbeth's candle is a symbol of life's transiency when students in this developed and civilized country are getting shot up and nobody is doing a damn thing? There's a saying in journalism, the press is the unofficial fourth branch of the government. In this atmosphere of media bubbles and so much confluence between real and not real, I think sometimes you have to be your own journalist. You have to curate your own news. You have to read in between the lines. You have to filter out the lies and reach the true truth underneath. And I think this is what Wellesley High School, our mother mushroom, has gifted us in these 4 years before we leave. Our knowledge on things from hypothesis testing to European history, from Lord of the Flies to astrobiology, keeps us on our toes and vigilant towards absurd lies. Our ability to form arguments through that infamous middle school acronym, TEAR, topic, evidence, analysis, relate back to the thesis, allows us to see holes in people's statements and detect their lies by omission, their contradictory statements. And our day-to-day interactions with teachers and classmates have taught us the unteachable lesson of when to trust people and when to raise suspicions. Because even as we scroll through our Facebook feeds and watch our BuzzFeed videos and eat our Tide Pods or whatever adults think we do, we must remain vigilant. Fake news junkies and Russian bots, which is a phrase that 2012 me would never imagine would exist in 2018, patrol our news networks and incite wars in comment sections that produce the sort of ideological stalemate that will ruin us all. Among all this, there is a guideline for journalistic ethics that the Bradford likes to refer back to whenever we encounter conundrums. It's called the Society of Professional Journalists Code of Ethics, and there are 3 bullet points that I think, if we're all going to be our own day-to-day journalists, we might as well follow. 1, be vigilant and courageous about holding those with power accountable. 2, give voice to the voiceless. And 3, recognize a special obligation to serve as watchdogs over public affairs and government. Just as we've had a little taste of rejection this year, we've also had a little taste of standing up for what we believe in, for taking action on our own, and calling out BS as we see it. In March, we created our own walkout from start to finish, student designed, student orchestrated, and student led. We left our classrooms, took the L, and fought for our lives for the safety of every student across America who should not have to worry about death while studying for their calculus exam. And if there's any sign that we spores are stronger than we think, I think it's the fact that we stood up for what we believe in and called out everybody who gave false facts, who lied by omission, who broke their promises. I'm hopeful for us 2018. A large fraction of us can already vote, and in a few months, the rest of us will join you. And with everything we've learned these 4 years shaping our ability to be informed and educated citizens, along with everything we will learn in the years beyond, I think the world has reason to tremble before us. Thank you.
I am done. I'll be your bridge of troubled water. When you're down, I will carry you like a bridge of troubled water. I will lay me down. When you're weary, feeling small, when tears are in your eyes, I will dry them all. I'm on your side. Oh, when times get rough and friends just can't be found, like a bridge over troubled water, I will lay me down. Like a bridge over troubled water, I will lay me down. When you're down and out, when you're on the street, my Lord, when evening falls so hard, I will comfort you. I'll take your part. Oh, when darkness comes, pain is all around. Like a bridge over troubled water, I will lay me down. Like a bridge over troubled water, I will lay me down. I'll be your bridge of troubled water. When you're down, I will carry you like a bridge of troubled water. I will lay me down. Sail on, silver girl. Sail on, silver girl. Sail on by. Time has come to shine, while your dreams are on their way. See
Dr. Lucier, members of the school committee, faculty, parents, and the class of 2018, let me welcome you to the 149th graduation exercises for Wellesley High School. Good to clap for that. And thank you for whoever brought this weather. I want to start my remarks this evening by telling you about an almost daily occurrence at my house. After dinner, my 7-year-old daughter will come running into the kitchen and ask me a question. Daddy, what time is it? What I've learned with some experience is I never focus on the answer to her question. If it's 7 p.m., I'll tell her that, but I know the time of day is not what's important to her. What's important is that to her, 7 p.m. means she has only 30 minutes to play before bedtime. The answer to the question is not all that's important. She wants to stay up, and if I'm at my best, I realize I only have 30 minutes to play with her too. In the business of my day and the exhaustion of the evening, I don't want to lose track of that. I want to relish those 30 minutes with my daughter. This bedtime question led me to thinking the advice I have for you tonight is to focus on the question rather than the answer. In your time here, you've heard teacher after teacher exhort you to pay more attention to the learning and forget the grade. I think too much time in high school is spent trying to figure out the answers. The answers on the test, to the homework, to the problem. We want to solve problems. What happens when you focus on the question, though, is something different. When a parent comes into my office to ask questions about a policy, it's rarely because they've suddenly become interested in educational practice. The question may be about the reason we penalize late papers, but it isn't really. The question is actually about their child and wanting to be sure we're treating them as an individual and not an idea. My first job is to remember that and to listen. So, what does it mean to focus on the question instead of the answer? For one thing, it means to think critically about life. What I want you to come away with is actually thinking about the question and how it can often lead us to thinking about the questioner, the actual person behind the ask. When the neighbor in Robert Frost's famous poem Mending Wall repeated, "Good fences make good neighbors," the speaker in the poem responds with the question, why do they make good neighbors? He goes on to say, something there is that doesn't love a wall, that wants it down. He doesn't answer the question for the reader. He focuses on the wall and the feeling walls evoke in him. He may in fact be challenging us to ask a different question of ourselves. Do good fences make good neighbors? A wall came down right here on this very field in 1968 when a group of 7 students from Boston walked across this stage for the first time in history of Wellesley High School. Tonight, my question might be, thank you. Tonight, my question might be to ask them again how they found the courage to come to Wellesley. One of those graduates, Miss Paula Davis, gave us her answer to the question last year when she watched a performance of Now in Color. She saw the same courage in those performers that she needed to come to Wellesley 50 years earlier. I know it's taken all of you courage to come to school for a lot of reasons that should never be the case. Another famous question I want to steal tonight from my comments to you all was asked in March of 1964 when President Lyndon Baines Johnson invited Alabama Governor George Wallace to the White House for a conversation about the way voting protests were being handled in his state. President Johnson said, "George, what do you want left behind? Do you want a great big marble monument that says, 'George Wallace, he built'? Or do you want a little piece of scrawny pine board lying across that harsh caliche soil that reads, 'George Wallace, he hated'?" Johnson isn't really asking Wallace a question, is he? Who would want to be remembered for hating? I'm sure there are a lot of historians who would have plenty to say about Johnson himself and the political motivations behind his questioning, but I'd like to borrow the question and ask it to you all. What do you want left behind? Do you want to be remembered as someone who built or someone who hated? Feel free to question my motives for asking you. I want you to be builders, of course. I want you to focus on the questions that find you and think about the people and the motives behind them. I want you to build relationships, communities, buildings, bridges, families, and futures for yourselves. I'd warn you to be careful if you think you want to build walls. And someday, if your daughter, your grandparent, or anyone else asks you for the time, I know from watching you go over the past 4 years that you'll take a moment to see the person behind the ask. Focus on the questions, and good luck. Congratulations.
Every time I get behind a microphone, I feel this overwhelming urge to give out the phone numbers. So if you don't mind me getting it out of my system right now, 617-779-7937. That's 617-779-7937. I feel so much better now. Sorry, no calls at the moment. Save those for tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. Dr. Lucier, Dr. Chisholm, Mrs. Novogrodsky, Mr. Kelton, Mr. Bender, faculty, students, parents, school board, class of 2018. Class of 2018 that has such a nice ring to it. More on that a little bit later on. What an honor it is to stand before you with your undivided attention for the last time. Perhaps for the first time, who knows? Unlike room 226, here there are no Socratic seminars, no Lord of the Flies survivor challenges, not even a rousing round of Foursquare to get between us tonight. Tonight is just you and I and a few thousand of your closest friends and family. 44 years ago, I was sitting where you are now. I know what you're thinking. How could anyone so youthful looking have possibly gone to high school over 4 decades ago? Well, you just have to suspend your sense of disbelief for the next few minutes. I remember graduation night like it was yesterday. Sadly, I remember it better than yesterday. Don't worry, it will happen to you someday too. We waited for well over an hour that night for the superintendent to arrive. He never did. So, Dr. Lucier, I, for one, am very happy to see you here this afternoon. If that weren't bad enough, our class president accidentally skipped several pages of his speech so no one could quite figure out what the heck he was talking about. And to complete this scene right out of a Vonnegut short story, there was one member of the graduating class of 1974, 1974, who had no idea what he was going to do next. Anybody want to take a guess who that was? Who was it? Ah, yeah, that Wellesley education once again on full display, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. On my graduation night, as I marched into the gymnasium to the bittersweet strains of pomp and circumstance, I hadn't a single clue about my future. College, well, let's put it this way, my enthusiasm for several of the prominent institutions of higher learning was not exactly reciprocated. So, no admission on that front, folks. A job, nothing doing there either. So while my classmates were accelerating toward the next phase of their lives, I was stuck in neutral. Flash forward a few years later, let me tell you another story about my first visit to Wellesley after landing the new job. We would meet at the school. But that school was not Wellesley High, but Babson College, and my new employees was not WHS, but WEEI. We were getting together at Celtic Rookie Camp there to close the deal on a contract that would make me a weeknight sports talk show host. Up to that fateful moment, I devoted my entire life to the media. Even when I was a Cub Scout, broadcasting appeared to be my destiny. One project each member of the pack created was a model of one of the buildings in our hometown. So naturally, what did I do? I constructed a cardboard replica of my local radio station, 10 years old, WILI Willimantic. By college, I spent many hours, according to my GPA, way too many hours, at the student station playing the Beatles, Stones, and of course, Bruce. That's for Haley out there and Mr. Fantini. For a decade and a half after graduation, my career would take me from Willimantic, Connecticut to Montgomery, Alabama, and plenty of stops in between. And now everything I'd worked for was culminating in this one dream job in Boston, Massachusetts. And then, like Mr. Smith in his silk wings at the beginning of Song of Solomon, you remember him? My career went splat. Yeah, I get it. Not the prettiest of metaphors, but you got to love the onomatopoeia. You think you know what you want to do for the rest of your life? Well, the research says you'll not only have multiple jobs, but multiple careers, as many as 5 to 7 during your working life. And it's a solid bet you'll have 10 jobs by the time you're 42. Even before you hit the workforce, there's an 80% chance you'll change your college major at least once. There's an old Yiddish saying, and since my Yiddish is a little rusty these days, I'll give you the translation instead. Man plans, God laughs. We live in a world where the only certainty is uncertainty. But in every moment, even those fraught with failure, the universe provides us with unexpected gifts, especially when we fail. If it weren't for failure, I wouldn't be standing here right now. I failed to get into the colleges I initially applied to. But eventually I managed to get into one college that would accept me, and now I can't imagine having gone anywhere else. That bright radio future I thought I had secured at Babson never quite sustained itself. I basically failed. But little did I know then that a few short years later, I would find my true calling, my salvation, not in a radio booth, but in a classroom right down the road, 50 Rice Street, right across the street. What distinguishes us from other mammals is the ability to adapt. The good news is that no matter what lies ahead, you'll not be helpless, hapless victims, because each and every one of you had the capacity to thrive in a world that demands constant adaptation. So if life is just one big chaotic existential mess ruled by random arbitrary forces with failure lurking around every bend, how do you achieve any semblance of agency in this crazy world? Thank you, Social Studies Department, for that one. To start, always do the right thing when you could just as easily do the wrong thing, or nothing at all. Kudos to ABC this week for canceling the Roseanne sitcom after the repugnant racist comments on Twitter, even though the show has been making a huge profit for the network. On the 50th anniversary of Martin Luther King's assassination on April 4th, Dr. Chisholm commemorated that tragic day in 1968 by reading a moving, eloquent tribute to the great man written by my English department colleague, Miss Anderson. It was a powerful moment, but let's not leave it there. It's critical that we honor Dr. King's memory, not just on April 4th or on his birthday weekend in January, but every day, and now more than ever. In his famous letter from Birmingham jail, Dr. King wrote of the ties that bind us all. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, he wrote. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. If he were alive today, he'd no doubt be heartened by the progress we've made in a half century since his death, but he'd also be discouraged about how much more needs to be done. Alas, there are still a lot of Roseannes out there. Dr. King's unwavering challenge to the social order must be a model for all of us. You've already begun to carry out his work. When you joined Parkland High and other students around the country in the March for Our Lives, you literally demonstrated the power of peaceful activism. On that blustery morning in early spring, your impassioned, articulate pleas for stricter gun laws sent a clear message to lawmakers and lobbyists that you will not be bystanders in the fight to end the senseless carnage that has ripped through our schools. 2 weeks ago in Texas, gun violence reared its ugly head again, a sobering reminder that there's a long way to go. Dr. King was gunned down in Memphis, and 2 months later, Bobby Kennedy was slain in Los Angeles. We mark the anniversary of that tragedy next week, June 5th. Now, 50 years later, firearms have destroyed the lives of dozens of innocent children and their families in far too many communities in this country. Some of those students were looking forward to graduating along with you. You owe it to them and to Dr. King and Senator Kennedy to carry on the fight. The first step toward that end is get thee to a polling booth. In the 2016 presidential election, roughly 43% of the electorate could not even be bothered to fill out a ballot. That's 100 million voters who opted to stay at home. The winner 2 Novembers ago was not Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton, but a third-party candidate called apathy. You must not let apathy win another term. Make a claim as a stakeholder in your life. Christy has already alluded to it. Register to vote. It is not only your obligation as a citizen in a democratic society, it's the best graduation present you can give yourself. But first, let's not forget those individuals, class of 2018, in your lives who have guided you to this time and place. I was fortunate to have the ultimate role model in a woman who was not only a demanding but loving and nurturing mother, but also the best teacher I ever had. Yeah, you heard that correctly. I was indeed a student in my own mother's class, French 4, sophomore year. Despite a never-ending struggle over what to call her, Mrs. Mustard, Madame Moutard, Mom, hey you, I watched in awe as a passionate, dedicated educator plied her profession with a kind of élan and joie de vivre. See what I did there? Very few have matched. I've always recognized that whatever success I've had, and believe me, it's completely modest, I've achieved in life, it's been possible by her belief in me, even when I didn't believe in me. Today, it's worth remembering that none of us come into this world as fully formed individuals. We're the sum of our experiences and a product of those relationships with our parents and other adults who have selflessly devoted themselves to your success. In 1818, 200 years ago, Mary Shelley wrote the first and greatest of all science fiction novels called Frankenstein. Her answer to those who were incredulous that a 19-year-old woman was capable of such an unprecedented feat, Mary credited not her own vivid, fertile imagination, but the fact she was born to parents of, quote, distinguished literary celebrity who encouraged her to write stories from an early age. Here's the final assignment I promise I'll ever give you. I want you to channel your own inner Mary Shelleys right now and give credit to whom credit is due. Seniors, please stand up and give it up for those people in the bleachers and in the chairs who help you create your own stories. Okay, you can sit down now. Parents, if I could talk to you as well for a second. You see, I'm here not only as a teacher, but also as a fellow parent whose own son, my oldest, also graduates next week. For the first time, I truly understand on a purely visceral level what a momentous day this is for you. That was a quick 18 years, wasn't it? Tempus fugit, as the inimitable Mr. Esposito might observe in his Latin class. I'll never forget the day when we drove our son home from the hospital, a fragile, vulnerable creature strapped tenuously into a car seat, facing backwards as if he couldn't bear to watch his father drive. He had reason. Me wondering how any legitimate medical staff could possibly entrust me with this 7-pound miracle of nature as I nervously negotiated those torturous roads on the most harrowing 30-minute drive of my life. What were they thinking anyway? Somehow we all made it home that day, and somehow we all made it here. And now our own sons and daughters are driving their own cars as they set out on new roads that will take them to who knows where. And try though we might, we can't buckle them into their car seats anymore. Whew. Class of 2018, back to you. Humor me for a second. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. And think all the way back to your first day at the high school. You, a lowly, wide-eyed rookie, navigating your way through the maze of hallways, trying to steer clear of those big, bad, intimidating juniors and seniors who are all surely so much wiser, so much tougher, so much cooler than you could ever possibly be. Now open your eyes again and look around you. You made it. Embrace this moment. Live in this moment. I know that you'd rather be texting, posting, swiping, liking, tweeting, buying, browsing, refreshing, and or fortnighting rather than listening to this speech. I know. Who wouldn't? But try to persevere, dig down deep, and be present without the aid of that warm and cuddly electronic security blanket nestled in your pocket. If you listen to the usual critics and Luddites, new technologies have been rotting human brains and destroying civilizations forever. But there's a compelling case to be made that this time there is reason for alarm. Experts argue that our smartphones aren't necessarily making us stupid, but they are sabotaging the lost art of conversation. You remember that quaint dynamic? 2 or more people engaging in face-to-face dialogue? To compound the problem, our attachment to phones and detachment from actual human beings diminishes our capacity for empathy, which if you watch cable news is also a lost art. In a few moments, we'll all want to memorialize this special event. But later at dinner with our family or at the all-night party, resist the urge, put away that binky with a microchip, and gulp, have a genuine human interaction. Savor in it, revel in it, bask in it, but don't post it. Like so many others, I deeply appreciate your passion, your commitment, energy, engagement, ambition, generosity, and most of all, sense of humor. Why else would you have invited me to speak tonight? This afternoon, along with Miss Levine, I had the privilege of leading you into this ceremony, and in a few minutes I'll be walking out with you as the curtain goes down on your hour upon the stage and mine as well. Together we commence new phases in our lives. It is altogether and fitting and proper that I too wear a gown because in a real sense, I'm graduating along with you. And I couldn't ask for better classmates. Class of 2018, it has been a profound honor to share this moment with you. The way I look at it, it's not the end, but the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Thank you.
I like my spot right here.
I was here. That's all I know.
Maybe
members of the school committee, staff, family, guests, and of course, class of 2018. I'm David Lucier, the superintendent of the Wellesley Public Schools, and I'm honored to be joining you on this most important of days. That's outstanding. This is my 26th year working in the field of education. And in that time, I've attended many graduations. Tonight, however, is a night of firsts for me. To begin, this is the first time I'm presiding over a graduation, both in my official capacity as a superintendent and as a parent of a member of the graduating class. I promised my daughter that I wouldn't say anything to embarrass her, but I don't think she would mind me sharing my great pride when I learned that her senior nickname was Snow Day Calculator. Very appropriate. It's also another night of first tonight because my parents are in the audience, and I believe this is the first time that they've heard their son speak as a superintendent. No pressure, right? And you'll know you're sitting next to them if you just heard someone say, and you better be brief, the seat is killing me. Mom and Dad, you often ask me exactly what I do. I think I usually respond that I attend many meetings involving students, parents, staff, and other town officials. So essentially, this is a pretty typical meeting for me. Now you know. Before offering some specific thoughts to our graduating class, I'd like to begin with a few important recognitions of some individuals who have supported our seniors on their path to tonight's ceremony. First, I'd like to start with our staff. Seniors, from the time you entered the Wellesley Public Schools, each year you have been taught by an exceptional group of educators who have challenged and encouraged you to learn important skills, to dig deep and find and explore your interests, and sometimes to believe in yourselves as much as they believed in you. Each year it is my hope that some of you, the best of you, will in the future earn the privilege to be called teacher. You will stand on the shoulders of these giants for the rest of your lives, and they deserve our thanks. May I ask all of our Wellesley Public Schools educators here tonight to please stand and be recognized. I also want to give a special shout out to Dr. Chisholm, Ms. Novogrodsky, Mr. Bender, and Mr. Kelton. You won't find a finer team leading a high school anywhere, and our community is grateful for your work each year to support our students. And of course, to Mr. Mustard, 2 of my kids have been your students, and as a result, they are better writers, thinkers, and better people. Like many other parents here tonight, I am in your debt. And there's another group of educators here tonight that deserves our recognition, and they are the parents of the class of 2018. Our parents are our first and perhaps most important teachers. Seniors, they may have cried when they left you on the first day of kindergarten. They stood behind you as they celebrated your triumphs. More important, they remained at your side when you stumbled. In the past year in particular, I know they rode with you on that roller coaster of test scores, college visits, acceptances and rejections, and final decisions that left you all exhausted. Seniors, your parents have been in your corner from day one, a fact that is not likely to change even as your address does. In recognition of your good work in helping these young men and women reach this important milestone in their lives, I ask the parents of the class of 2018 to please stand and be recognized. So, class of 2018, I'd like to offer a few final thoughts for you specifically. First, I want to thank you for the many notes of concern and care you shared with me over the winter whenever snow was in the forecast. Even the slight possibility of a dusting elicited eloquent messages regarding road and sidewalk conditions and the safety of your fellow students and staff. With the 5 snow days I had to call, I appreciated your vote of confidence in my job performance this year. But on to more serious matters. Seniors, building on the advice you have already received today, I'd like to share a few of my own thoughts that I'm not sure will count as wisdom, but will at least reflect some of my specific hopes for you. I'd like to talk about passion, civility, and care. Let me start with the idea of passion. The Oxford English Dictionary defines passion as an intense desire or enthusiasm for something. I tend to think about it as that activity that creates a spark in your eye and a fire in your belly. Last month, during an advisory meeting on social and emotional learning, the conversation in our group turned to some of the major points of stress during adolescence, particularly during the high school years. One of our committee members, Dr. Susan Zwick, the chief of child and adolescent psychiatry at Newton Wellesley Hospital, commented that adolescence is a time for young people to try things on, to see what fits and what doesn't. More specifically, she talked about the high school years being a critical time for students to explore their passions and to potentially discover their talents. Passions and talents, the two don't always go hand in hand. I, for example, have a passion for food, but almost no talent for cooking. You get the idea. Some of you may have already found the natural intersection between these two areas, and some of you are still exploring, and that's exactly as it should be. In a perfect world, these two areas will drive your career choices, but herein lies the challenge. Once we settle into our lives and careers, do we still leave room to try new things and discover new passions? A great example is former President George W. Bush exploring his newfound passion for painting. I'll leave it to others to judge his talent, but at 70 years old, I cannot help but admire his determination to, as Dr. Zwick said, try something new on. My hope is that you too will always be open to exploring new areas of life and potentially discovering a new passion. And what of civility? I took this topic on in my recent weekly bulletin because of my frustration at what I continue to see both at the national and local level. Here's a bit of what I wrote that I think bears repeating. Civility doesn't mean we all have to agree on issues. Quite the contrary. What it does mean, however, is that we can disagree while still being respectful. And when we're not sure of someone's intentions, let's assume they're positive. Even better, let's start by trying to understand someone's alternative perspective and maintain an openness to shifting our own deeply held positions. I fear technology and social media in particular have made this problem worse. The internet allows us to join echo chambers of our own interests, where positions become crystallized, often based on conjecture and false facts. It's easy to forget norms of civility when you are shouting from a keyboard. Seniors, I know the landscape around you doesn't contain many models of civility at the moment, but you have a chance to change this. Hammering people in 280 characters on Twitter is no way to solve problems, run an organization, or lead a nation. A good rule to live by is to be tough on the issues, but easy on the people. Be critical thinkers, but a little less critical of one another. And finally, caring. When we were recently working to develop a draft profile of a graduate to guide our next strategic plan, the students participating in the process highlighted caring for oneself as a critical competency that everyone should have. Taking care of yourself means not just getting regular exercise and eating well. It also means knowing when to slow down. It means not being afraid to ask for help. Caring does not mean ignoring others. Many of you are blessed to be born with incredible privileges. It's important to remember that not everyone is born on third base. Caring also means that we don't shut the door of opportunity to others once we ourselves cross the threshold. In short, learn to take care of yourself so you are in a position to reach back and help those around you. We are all in this thing called life together. So that's it. Passion, civility, and caring. 3 simple ideas that I hope you'll hang on to as you leave this field tonight. Wellesley High School Class of 2018, we honor your many achievements, but most of all, we look forward to the future you will create. Now get out there and fly. Congratulations and Godspeed.
Good evening to the class of 2018 and our honored guests here tonight. My name is Michael D'Ortenzio, and I'm here to offer some parting thoughts on behalf of my colleagues on the school committee this evening. Now, typically, the person speaking in this slot is going to have more, shall we say, gray hair. And so, perhaps ironically, when I sat down to write this, I thought to myself, where has the time gone? And I realized that every person in this stadium here tonight is thinking just that same thing. For you, it's how am I already at my high school graduation? I'm standing here thinking, how am I 7 years past sitting in your seats? And your family members in the audience are sitting there thinking, how can I have a child, a grandchild, a niece or a nephew who is about to embark on their life? This is one of those bittersweet life moments that marks both a beginning and an end. And seeing as you are probably the first audience that I have spoken to in a while who would think of me as, you know, old, I'm going to take advantage of that and offer you 3 pieces of advice. The first has to do with falling down, and it's that you have to prepare to fail. I get that sounds a little nonsensical. Why would anybody want to fail? Of course, none of us seek to, but it's the reality of being human. And sometimes I think growing up in a place like this can push us to be risk averse, to not try something because it may not work out. But in truth, it's not the stumbler that's failed, it's the one that didn't take that first step. And so when you get to wherever you're going, be okay with the stumbling blocks that will come your way and then hit the ground running. Go and ask that person out, sign up for that class that will stretch you. It won't always work out, but you will be better for it. The second has to do with standing up, and it's to be a skeptic. Our democracy relies on a healthy dose of skepticism in us all. Whether that's in Congress or Congress 101, we have an obligation as citizens to ask questions, to inquire, to seek that more perfect union. Don't be afraid to buck the trend if you believe it's a wrong one. No one has ever made history by taking the path already traveled, and each of you has the capacity to blaze a new trail. The third and final one is to keep track of time. We've all heard the aphorism carpe diem, but it's a phrase I have always felt tells just half the story. It leaves you wondering, as I know your Wellesley High School education has taught you to ask, so what? And in truth, the full line from Horace, the Roman poet, is roughly to seize the day and to put no trust in the future. That second part has always stuck with me because it helps me remember that that feeling of invincibility, of limitlessness that we share in youth, it won't last forever. Don't let it be a distraction. Because at some point, time will have passed by, and then it will be us. We will be the ones sitting out there in the audience, asking ourselves, where has the time gone? What will your answer be? On behalf of the school committee and the town of Wellesley, I'd like to offer you a big congratulations and best wishes on your bright futures ahead. Thank you.
Just do it. You're it. You got this. Give a little cheer. No, that's both of each other. Shove me. Are you ready? Enough.
Benjamin Gibson Abbott. Sari Rose Adler. Grace Catherine Ahonen. Christopher Thomas Aiken. Lauren Reen Alexander. Arya Amuzgar. Sarah Maria Anderson. Lauren Farrington Andrews. Ava Michelle Arbili. Michael Romesh Aruganayagam. Davis Alan Carter Atala. Ari Tylena Ayala. Cameron Neil Eyre. Olivia Catherine Bodicher. Francesca Dawn Bailey. Kelly Ann Banks. Maya Brenda Barnard. Alexander John Barron. Cassidy Ray Julice Bartolome. Catherine Juliet B. Elizabeth Parker Bellin. Gail Briggs Bennett. Kimberly Allison Bennett. Shayla Ebony Bernadelle. Taylor Jalen Billy. Kimberly Waite Bishop. Madeline Parker Blaber. Colin Avery Blasco. Jamal Jamaica Quasi Blidgen. Michael Alex Bohms. Eleanor Jane Fuller Boyd. Natalie Rose Boyle. Court Bush Brewer. Catherine Ann Brooks. Susanna Claire Buckley. Jack Glass Bullion. Nolan Patrick Burke. Ja Young Bayun. Lindsay Dickinson Carroll. Ryan William Carroll. Daniel Merrill Carter. Angelo Michael Cataldo. Jackson Anthony Cavalerano. Catherine Marie Sorelli. Susan Ann Sorelli. Matthew Paul Servon. Benedict Louis Cesar Thompson. Julia Jones Chafers. Shannon Elizabeth Chafers. Marcus Aubrey Chalmers. Emma Kathleen Champagne. Max Alexander Chan. Ryan Jamil Chowie. Catherine Ann Charkoudian. Miles Xavier Charles. Ria Ritu Chala. Justine Ijia Chen. Sophie Xian Chen. Caitlin Martha Chakosky. Melanie Elizabeth Ching. Lillian Marie Chong. Alexander Joseph Crystal. Andrew James Chapinelli. Christopher Hugo Semino. John Edward Cholfi. Ryan Patrick Clare. Elise Maureen Coakley. Cora Monet Cobb. Harrison Jake Cohen. Joshua Taylor Cohen. Dylan Gabriel Cole. Emily Megan Connors. Dylan Alexander Connolly. William Campbell Corkill. James Bernard Corskadden. Jack Charles Crawshaw. Catherine Stuyvesant Crozier. Harrison Frederick Culhane. Lillian Hamilton Curtis. Anthony Nicholas Chubaro. Kyle Joseph Dalrymple. Edward Pennell Darcy. Catherine Casey Dario. Elliot Peter Davidson. Catherine Joan Decker. Benjamin Dylan Dees. Julia May DeSantis. Lillian Elizabeth Dew. Chloe Josephine Diamond. Jake Caesar Diozzi. Daniel J. Warren DeVecchia. Caroline Margaret Dolan. Artem Dolgi. Kaylee Erin Donnelly. Margaret Elizabeth Dosher. Emma Whiting Doherty. Emma Rose Downey. Taryn Bernadine Drigo. Genevieve Elizabeth Duffy. Olivia Foss Eburn. Tyler Michelle Edward. Destiny Faith Edwards. Janonica Kayani Tajasha Edwards. Jacob Hill Einbinder. Anna Natalia Epstein. Simon William Erickson. Mohammed Muxuddin Farah. Haley May Feinzig. Kate Elizabeth Fletcher. Brett William Fontana. Emma Pearl Frank. Nicole Elizabeth Franklin. Lucas Gustavo Fry. Olivia Gates Friedman. William Richard Fulgenetti III. Enya Rose Gamble. Giselle Rose Garcia Orjuela. Mitchell Chase Garapi. Thomas William Gartley. John Robert Garvey. Mia Natalie Garvin. Lily Elaine Gastwert. Isha Gautam. Adeline Rose Gaucher. Madeline Rose Genta. William Park Gerald. Jada Alvern Gibson. Pierce Henry Gillum. Charles Hall Gordon. Alexandra Christiana Amelia Gorman. John Henry Gray. Caroline Fletcher Green. Lucia Rose Grignafini. Eleanor Catherine Grondin. Jack Henry Grossi. Harry Joseph Grosso. John Chandler Grosso. John Paul William Griska. Katarina Elena Guerrero. Luke Dalton Guthrie. Annabelle Karen Haddock. Carolyn Jacqueline Hale. Emily Rose Hale. Sean Lewis Halliday. Dylan Patrick Hurricane. Stella Looper Hu. Sabrina Xingxing Huang. William Flynn Hume. Janae Deja Hunt. Charles Fremont Ireland. Taylor LaShawn Irish. Yumna Isaacs. Calvin Charles Isley. Javier Allen Jackson, Jr. Marcus Manuel Jarrett. Amelia Javid. Mackenzie Elizabeth Johnson. Kayla Alice Johnston. Caitlin Josephine Jones. Jacqueline Marie Jordan.
Brian Sunghoon Joie. John Charles Canham. Fatma Kashif. George Peter Katsikaris. Ryan Spar Cater. David Samuel Keene. Megan Catherine Kelly. Joanna Sarah Kennedy. Charles Robert King.
Let's go!
Eleanor Margaret Kinney. Alexander Michael Kinsella. Abigail Catherine Clank. Patrick Lee Cly. Brianna Olivia Coe. Isabella Monique Coe. Anna Noel Krashevsky. Megan Sadie Kruger. Mahika Kalugi. Alexander Huang Kung. Dana Kirshva. Caroline Carmen Kwok. Evelyn Natalie Landers. Edward Joseph Lash. Phoebe Catherine Lawrence. Brian Van Lee. Donovan Jake Lee. Danford Orrin Chamberlain Leonard. Samantha Jane Levy. Nancy Sunny Lee. Thomas Stewart Lieberman. Calvin Enoch Lindquist. Matthew Thomas Long. Ryan Andrew Loofborough. Tomas Maria Lopez Benitez. Samuel Quinn Lowe. Charlotte Isabel Lucas. Zoe Fiona Lua. Ronald Joseph Luongo. Emma Nicole Lucier. Henry Stevenson Lyle. Allison Jane McDougall. Carson William Makonga. Ricky Francisco Ramos Madden. Ryan James Madden. Grace Ellen Majakamo. Annabelle Mago. Lily Susanna Malik. Glenn Kelly Minglopis. Andrew Lewis Manning. Michael Thomas Manning. Caroline Grace Martin. Claudia Maria Martin Marin. Nicholas Edward Marvin. Taylor McLennan. Samuel Joseph McGarry. Amanda Lynn McGinn. Nicholas Richard McLean. Caroline Mary McMahon. Olivia Ashley Medina. Emily Ansi Meng. Veronica Olga Mills. Justin Paul Mitchell. Alec Prusen Mitrokostas. Ezra Nyabuti Mogere. Ryan Donovan Moen. Deontay Terrell Moore. Maximilian Angelo Moore. Reese McManus Moran. Liam Francis Morgan. Troy Morrow. Casey Ann Morton. Anna Condon Muning. Patrick William Mungovan. Jacob Herbert Wolfson. Margaret Hennessy Murray. Ryan Matthew Murray. Bongani Nutskani Rulani Musikavanu. Jacob Abraham Nangle. James Christopher Nyland. Madison Lee Noble. Tyler Joshua Norris. Joshua Cameron Norton. Alexander Michael Novins. Christopher Michael Novak. Julia Daria Oaktai. Jameson O'Neill. Paloma Angel Okumbor. David Joseph Osborne. James Andrew Awesome. Tara Lynn Palacino. George Anthony Parada. Sydney Ellen Paul. Sophie Blitt Paulson. Haley Arana Pergola. Maxwell Richard Perozic. Gabriella Peters. Caitlin Saunders Pfaff. Thomas McLean Phoenix. Julia Desiree Pimentel. Vivian Tinyuan Poe. Regis Price. Lila Johanna Pertel. Olivia Madison Ramos. Duna Ariadna Ramos Codina. Anthony Joseph Rinaldi. Kayla Dame Zoe Reed. Kyle Dean Zuri Reed. Zachary Aaron Roberts. Paula Rodriguez. Alexandra Nicole Rogers. Ariel Elizabeth Roos. William Matthew Rosen. Alexandra Simone Rosman. Jean Wunja Allensworth Ruffley. Michael Patrick Ryan. Gustin Vital Saint Fort. Zain Assad Salme. Madeline Elizabeth Sarr. Andrew Cook Scherer. Rachel Lauren Siegel. Tasia Shri Senthilnathan. Mia Savannah Sewell. May Adele Sheehan. Timothy Cornelius Sheehan. Kyle Marcus Shilkin. Joseph David Simmering. Michael Lewis Simmering. Evan Nathan Silver. Tara Single Snapper. Harrison Tyler Snedden. Emma Adelia Saliva. Olivia McIntyre Souls. Catherine Connolly Specht. Edward Elliott Stabnick. Sophia Powers Staley. Samuel Henry Thomas Steen. John Michael Stewart. Zachary Xavier Studemeyer. Aiden Matthew Sullivan. Colin Brian Sullivan. Finn Harris Sullivan. Ryan Daniel Sullivan. Nicole Elizabeth Svingen. Anshul Swaroop. Iman Quarishi Tariq. Jackson Taylor. Suleika Clarabelle Tahita. Owen Elisha Talalian. Richard Wesley Thompson. Eve Sylvie Tickton. Jack Walker Tishman. Daniela Torres. Chloe Ames Troxel. Alexis Sang. Hayden Alexander Tykolski. Allison Alexis Vargas. Oliver Michael Vasconcells. Olivia Swenson Vernon. Sergio Vidal Hernandez. Adriana Nicole Voci. Julian Edward Von Hoff. Emily Ann Votapka. Alexander Eloy Wagner. Kendra Addison Wagner. Andrew Jeffrey Walthall. Owen James Ward. Ashley Carolyn Watts. Daryl Kenneth Webb. Catherine Grace Weinberg. Thomas Christopher Weiss. Nicholas Gannett West. William Albert Wegman. Julia Mary Wilson. John Robert Wernley. Benjamin Bard Wool. Alana Marie Womack. Joanna Marie Roble. Matilda Olivia Robleski. Jared Munhay Wu. Siri Wu. Shu Yu Yang. Alexander Kamran Yasan. Caitlin Emily Yee. Timothy Michael Yee. Benjamin Gunho Yip. Annie Jingyao Yu. Ryan Lee Yu. Jacob Collier Zaleski. Kelsey McIntosh Zarl. Emeng Nancy Zai. Alan Shi Yang. Feiyang Zhang. Selena Quinn Zhang. Sutsi Clover Zhang. Edward Longfei Zhou. Yinchin Stephen Zhou. Catherine Jaichi Zhu. Jack Zhuo. Grace Helen Zantara. Julia Camille Zimmer. Benjamin Michael Zimmerman.
I'm good. Huh?
Best dressed man in
Just the
education
name.
right
Huh? Yeah, I just look. Christy, you. Yes, you are. Alex Elizabeth Ramsden. Ann Fox Griffin. Adamo Joseph Dalalis. Abigail Kate Silverstein.
Left arm to the bullpen. Comes running. 6 names. Yeah, absolutely. 10 pitches. Oh. Guys. Congrats.
So it's now my pleasure to present the Excellence in Teaching Award 2018. The following are quotations from the winner's colleagues. One colleague writes, "She is focused on making sure that students have a meaningful experience that they will carry with them beyond the walls of WHS. She works tirelessly to co-create 2 incredible courses. The feedback from students and parents about these courses continues well beyond the time students graduate." Another writes, "She is one of my all-time favorite teachers. A few years ago, we were teaching different sections in the same class, and I was lucky enough to share a classroom with her. Although we have vastly different teaching styles, I would learn a great deal by staying in the classroom while she taught." A third wrote, "Her dry sarcasm and clever wit keeps the department laughing throughout every lunch period. She has spent endless hours co-developing a meaningful curriculum for struggling learners in 11th and 12th grades. Students who have taken these courses have experienced success where they have felt lost and remember her classes beyond their high school years." The following are quotations taken from students about why this teacher deserves this award and are taken directly from their nomination forms. "The coolest teacher I ever had. Really chill and helpful. I have struggled, but you helped me a lot. She is hilarious in class and makes every single class fun. Although our class is fast-paced, she leaves time to thoroughly go over what students struggled with. I never find myself bored in her class. She explains everything well and has a connection with all her students. She cares about every student and radiates her enthusiasm in class every day. She is approachable for extra help and questions, and her expectations are always clear and fair. She is extremely patient and organized. Love, period, her, period. Absolutely the nicest human, cares about your personal life as well as your academic. Best math teacher ever. She cares about every single one of her students. She has really helped me and has made me love math. She never gives up on kids. Please join me in congratulating the 2018 recipient of the Wellesley High School Excellence in Teaching Award, Ms. Jennifer Milne. She needs to come up. It's a lot of work.
They have ways, don't they, Jamie?
Yes.
I'm so sorry. Thank you. No problem. Okay.
You're all set. Go. Oh, you're good. Bye-bye.
Bye, Miss Milne.
I'm going to take a little liberty with the program on this next one. You'll understand why. The Senior Cup is awarded to two members of the senior class who, in the opinion of their peers, is most outstanding in character, school citizenship, scholarship, and activities. Our first winner is a multi-talented student and leader in our school community. There were teachers lining up to say great things about her. Whether it be in the athletic arena, on stage, or in the classroom, she demonstrates focus, vision, determination, and excellence. Perhaps even more important is the respect she has for her classmates and teachers, and the genuine fun she has in the learning process. She comes to school every day with an excitement for learning and a dedication for going above and beyond at school and in this community. She was one of the most thoughtful and hardest working students I have ever taught. She has a collaborative leadership style and is willing to make hard decisions to move the group. She was extremely studious and demanding of herself, but always had time for others. Whether it was listening to fellow classmates about ideas for the senior class or keeping me in check about my worldly views, she always had a lending ear. She had an incredible, kind heart, too. Combine that with her indomitable drive, her ability to lead, and her amicable nature, there's no doubt that she will have her definition of success in life. I can only hope that my daughter turns out to be the young lady she's become. She is inclusive of others and ensures that everyone has a place at the table. She is the winner of the Holy Cross Book Award in 2017. She's the winner of the 2018 Principal Leadership Award. She's a member of our National Honor Society. She has been your class president for the past 3 years. She is headed to the University of Wisconsin in Madison in the fall. The first Senior Cup Award winner for the class of 2018 is Abby Silverstein. I always get it right. The second award winner. His first teacher writes, "To borrow from Whitman, he is large, he contains multitudes. He is a seeker. He is looking for ideas, for connections, and for understanding of himself, his peers, and his world. He is a wordsmith, a gifted essayist, and one of the most skilled orators I've encountered in all the years I've taught the senior speech. He's the guy you want in your classroom, on your team, in your corner, not just because he's good at what he does, but because he's got a spirit and a drive that makes us all want to be just a little bit better. Too often, we underestimate a smile, a kind word, a listening ear, an honest compliment, or the smallest act of caring, all of which have the potential to turn life around. He made a difference in the lives of my students. He never left a job unfinished. He loves a good prank. April Fool's Day might be his favorite holiday. He comes prepared with supplies for his pranks. He's also an excellent baker. When attractiveness was part of the rubric for a project, he included a picture of Justin Timberlake. I have thanked him on many occasions for being the voice of reason in his group or class. He is a deep thinker, talented athlete, and insightful young man. He brings a high level of integrity to all that he does. He is the winner of the Jordan E. Sachs Memorial Scholarship Award. He is the winner of the Miles C. Page Memorial Athletic Scholarship Award. He is the winner of the Yale Book Award in 2017, the Ernest Upham Sophomore Award for Social Studies in 2016. He was the MVP of the boys indoor track team this year. He was the winner of the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents Certificate, the Math Service Award. He was president of the National Honor Society. He is the valedictorian for the class of 2018, and he will attend Princeton University in the fall. The second 2018 Senior Cup Award winner is Carson Makanga. Congratulations. You get that. Congratulations. Thank you. And you get this. Congratulations. Awesome. Nicely done.
All right, that's good, Abby.
At this time, I'd like everyone to take our tassels and move them to the left. Class of 2018, parents, please join us as we march as graduates to the next field for our hat toss. Seniors, please follow us.
Do it, just do it.
Hey!